Welcome back to Nick Landis Comic Corner Classic Less Known Classics. This is episode number 2301 and double number 2195. I got a trade here. I got the Epic Collection for Silver Surfer and a particular character I'll talk about in a minute. I'll talk about after this one. It's a character I've kind of talked about before, but never done a trade for him before. To be first one to talk about for him. First up we have is Silver Surfer Epic Collection, Volume 3, actually 4, Parable. Yeah, you have Galactus fighting the In-Betweener. I'll get to him. This book collects the first two annuals for Silver Surfer. Yes, both Annual 1 and Number 2, along with Silver Surfer, Volume 3, issues 15 to 23. Mar Comic Presents Number 1. Just a short story for that one. Fantastic Four 325. I'm going to skip it long. I'm going to talk about that one. Marvel graphic novel number 38. It's my Silver Surfer Judgment Day. And the 2-issue Hero miniseries. Okay? This book covers the time period of, for the main issues, September 1988 to May of 1989. So basically, when it gets into the next issues, they'll be, basically out of the 80s into the 90s. It'll be the first comic book basically be out of the 80s. First up we have is the annual, a tie into Evolutionary War, where he takes an Icarus of the Internals. And Super Skrull here too. Oh, by the way, the writing here. Stephen Hart, Stan Lee, Mark Greenwald, Al Milgrom, Marcia Rogers, who does the artwork too, Michael Higgins, Renee Westsetter, Peter Sarson, Tom DeFalco, and John Bashida, who does the artwork too, with artwork by Joe Santon, Rob Lem, Rich Buckler, Mebos, Peter Paris Collins, of course I'm working on this writing artwork, Jim Valentino, one of the co-founders of Image, Rod E. Ramos, and Mark Bagley. The cover art front back of Rob Lem and Jeff Robinson. So basically the first annual is basically Silver Surfer's involvement in the Evolutionary War. Yeah. And then pretty much right after this, you're thinking, okay, that's the opening story. I want to basically focus on Frankie Ray, which sets up the stuff that we see later on. You see Galactus where he's in trouble, and then of course basically continuing Silver Surfer. They have a Mantis story. Yes, a Mantis story where he's meditating, and then we have the pinup stuff with Many Love the Silver Surfer, Nova, Mantis, Shalabal, Nadir, who's a Skrull posing as a Supreme Intelligence, Emperor Cyclo, who's a Skrull, Cybele, Galactus himself, and then we did high evolutionary stuff in here, and then finally move on to Silver Surfer Volume 3, Issue 15. Yeah, the whole issues with this one from 15 to about 17 or 18 is mostly about Silver Surfer taking Reed Richards and Susan Richards to space with their son be left for the babysitter because Galactus requests their help. Now, they're in hiatus from the Fantastic Four because they're trying to raise Franklin. With the Thing leading the group. So, they're going to Costas again, they go off into space. Really fun stuff here. It lasts for about a few issues. It lasts, think about issue 18, I think it does. Then, of course, basically in 16 we have the In-Betweeners show up. Yeah, and they're one of these strange cosmic beings. Yep. And it's all by helping Galactus. And of course you have Galactus versus In-Betweener in issue number 18. Yes, 18. Now, when does this arc end? Well, you're about to find out. We have Silver Surfer versus Firelord. Yes. Nova, I am hungry. So, yeah. That kind of gets wrapped up there. And we have Firelord and Star Fox. And you're thinking, you mean the 64 character? No. Marvel's Star Fox, who is Thanos' brother. That's not a joke. So, yeah. So the Reed Sue Richards thing got wrapped up definitely by issue 18. So then with these issues in particular, just Nova just dealing with the stuff with basically more so Galactus and Firelord. A lot of space stuff here. You have Mantis dealing with the police officer on Earth. And then we cut over to Mar Represents Number 1. This is written and drawn by Al Milgrom. Mostly put just Silver Surfer just doing his little surf thing in space. Do just a minute here. Yeah, basically just... We have basically him being turned back to Norrin Rand at the end of the issue. And of course it goes back to Zen Law. For some reason we have Marsh Riders do a fill-in. And you can tell it's not the same artwork that's been going on since issue 1. Because of how the characters' faces are drawn. Yeah, it's Marshall Riders, who's a good artist. But man, this artwork is weird. You know, this guy at one point did Batman. Yeah, he did Batman. And then the very next issue, he deals with Eagle Living Planet. Yep. And that's only issue 22. And we're almost done here. I'm thinking, really? Almost done? Yeah, there's only like about 9 issues of the main series. 2-issue miniseries, 2 annuals, and basically a one-shot. Yeah, so we have here. And then we have, well, of course, also Fantastic Four, which I've discussed already for this Fantastic Four issue. And then we go back to 23, which is the last issue in the book. It just basically Silver Surfer going to an alien planet, deal with some minor thing. It's more 80s sci-fi stuff, which I do appreciate that, but it's not much going on this one. Then we move on to the second A, which is basically apparently the start of the Atlantis Attacks crossover. Yes. So it started with this Silver Surfer annual, which is interesting at best. Yeah. So now, like most times, they collect the whole thing. And yeah, they collect the whole entire story. It just is a multi-story thing that's what I think having. It's also the backup feature in the book deals with a... basically, there are 2 recurring features. There's the Atlantis Attacks, and there's a Saga of Serpent Crown. That's secondary feature in the book. It continues on in Iron Man number 10, and then we have... There's a Kree score on issue 26. So, what goes on with 24-25? Well, final feature, we have more stuff with Silver Surfer, appearance by Reed Richards. Fun stuff here. And after the whole annual wraps, then we have the Judgment Day issue, which is written by Stan Lee. Yes, it's mostly put a. You can think of it as a retelling of an issue from Silver Surfer Line. It's not like a reprint. It's like him. Like you have him in space, and he encounters 2 naked, beautiful naked women who have this portal, and here are the monsters. He blasts them. It's implied this book is not canon. Of course, you have Frankie Ray just, well, sitting on an asteroid. I love the artwork because I love John Bushman's artwork, my favorite artist. But not much else to go on here. You have Mephisto going on here too. And you're thinking, okay, when we get to Parable stuff, Parable comes, oh, come on, seriously, back up. For some reason, likes doing that. I'm not sure why. Come on. Back up. Back up. Thank you, Jesus. Okay, so rather the Judgment Day issue. And then we have a miniseries that is officially not canon. And for some reason, some sites list this as the 4th volume for the series. It is not. Yeah, it's just a 2-issue miniseries called Parable. It is a non-canon miniseries. It's a follow-up to Fireside Book Stories number 11, which is basically published in the 70s. I'm surprised this book was not published in this trade here. Because mostly put it's just a retelling of, like, it's like a what-if story. What if there was no Marvel superheroes? It's more like a realistic take on the Silver Surfer and Galactus himself. And that's it. No, seriously, that's what the two-issue miniseries is. Yeah, and this basically is just a follow-up to that two-issue, that one-shot. Is it good? Yeah, it's good, but it's not canon. And for some reason, it's listed as another volume for Silver Surfer, even though it is not. They should have just called this Silver Surfer Parable. That's what they called it. Nope, they had to call it Silver Surfer. Yeah, that's the only grab I have with this. Now, Stan Lee writes this in a real line. Apparently, this actually is his favorite Silver Surfer story. And the story is really good. One of his last major stories he did. And, yeah. And that's pretty much it for that one. I give basically Silver Surfer Epic Collection Volume 4 a 10 out of 10. Excuse me. Let's check something here. Okay, so next up is something quite interesting. I discussed this character once already, but now I'm discussing a trade that collects his work. Now, for some reason, there's no Epic Collection release for this character. You would think because he was featured in a movie, but no, he isn't. We have Marvel Masterworks Captain Mar-Vell Volume 1. And you're thinking, who the heck is this Captain Mar-Vell? It's a guy. Obviously, it was not Carol Danvers. It's not Monica Rambeau. It's not the two kids. It's not Jenville. It's not Sydville. This is the original Captain Mar-Vell, Mar-Vell. That's who this one is. Now, this book in particular, this collects basically Marvel Superheroes 12, 13, the first 9 issues of the ongoing series of the first volume. Stan Lee does the opening issue, issue 12. Roy Thomas takes out for issue 13, which is David Miller character. And the first 4 issues of the ongoing series, Arnold Drake takes over issue number 5. And this issue number 9, Gene Colan is the second artist in the book. He does 12, 13, and the first 4 issues, 5 to 9, is Don Heck. Now, this book covers, this is from the 60s. Yes, I think this is probably like the last major one I'm covering that came out in the 60s, because I think this might be the last one, because it's also, I know there's also Black Panther as well, but he's stuck in the 70s. So we have from the period of December 1967, we conclude in January 1969. So first up we have is Marvel Superheroes number 12. 12 is part 1 of a 3-part story that concludes with the opening issue of his ongoing series. That is one of our longer running, I think it lasted about 40 issues, I think this book did. Yes. Now, it basically has other stories like Black Knight, Destroyer, Captain America, Human Torch, The Murder. Believe it or not, those are all reprints. This is the opening story, and it's like all new, the coming Captain Mar-Vell. So, yeah, phase 1, so it begins. Yeah, and we have Gene Colan do this artwork, which is really... Lincoln Carr himself did a review of this on his St. Gorgeous month. I think it's one of the last ones he did, so you have Captain Mar-Vell arrives on Earth. Well, he starts his... You have his, like, arrival with a crew, and of course he has his girlfriend who he doesn't see again after this one, as far as I can tell. Yeah. As far as I can tell, basically. Now, if you're curious about the first 11 issues, There was the first 12 issues. It was basically known as Marvel Fantasy Masterpieces, and it was a reprint book. Yeah, there's also her character named Yuna. Yuna herself basically is not around very long after this. She was the lover of the original Captain Marvel. Best friend's a young Ren. He's actually still very much alive. Magnetron. Yeah. He's not only enemy of the original Captain Marvel, he's also enemy of Carol Danvers. Yeah, as a matter of fact, he actually returned for the Enemy Within crossover just fairly recent, like in the last decade. Yeah, and he's in basically like the first 18 issues of this book. Yeah, he's basically the main villain of this book. Yeah, so you have him arrive on Earth, assume identity. Of course, before he goes to Earth, because it's basically ambassador from the Krees. They might be curious, though. If he's supposed to be Kree, why is his skin pink? Well, that's the way stuff was on back then. Later on, they were kind of blue, so... Yeah, and of course, Captain Martinez is like a lover. Is like, come on, sign me to work. I know, Colonel, but take your relationship by a 30-second period for farewells. And of course, it goes off. Then see you again for a while. If you're curious, how many issues is Yuna around for? She's around for quite a while. Mm-hmm. Yep. So we have Reimer in his uniform. Yep. Of course, they fire on him. Of course, he does basically his infiltration. He puts on instead of clothes, he steals. Actually, copies them. Of course, he identifies the name of Mar-Vell. Then he's communicated by a wrist communicator. So after he talks to them and then basically prepare for the attack, which continues the very next issue. Yep. Yeah, then the very next issue, in issue 13, he continues his plan, which he plans to infiltrate, well, the facility. So, yeah, basically he's undercover. And by the way, this issue is also noteworthy. Then we see an appearance by the Kree Sentry, the one that was destroyed back in it, the one that was Fantastic Four attack. Yeah, this basically is a nod to, and we see the first appearance of Carol Danvers, which is a major. Yep. So yeah, basically the robot gets revived. Captain runs up fighting. At the end of issue 13, move on to the first issue, which actually concludes this opening 3-part story arc. Yep. So they fight and the robot's destroyed, saving the world. And of course, Carol gets involved in some of this too. And after it's defeated, then he faces, in issue 2, face off against the Super Skrull. Yep. Yes, he faces the Super Skrull in issue 2 of his own title. Yes, the Super Skrull. And you're thinking, really? Yeah, really. Face up against them in the opening issue of this ongoing series. Only if you're curious still about the title, Marvel Studios will continue here. Issue 14 was a Spider-Man issue. Yes. Well, yeah, it was just a Spider-Man story. I think that was reprinted. Issue 15 is a Medusa story. 16 is for Phantom Eagle, which is first appearance of the character. Yeah, the Phantom Eagle character appeared in Ghost Rider. Yep. 17, I believe, is a Black Knight issue, which was the death of the original Black Knight. 18 is first appearance of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And 19, which is the last original story of the whole series, is a Kazar story. And then, basically, after that, it becomes a reprint book. Actually, I think, let's see. Yeah, basically becomes a reprint book for pretty much the rest of the series at this point. Yeah. And I believe in the case of issue 2, I think he fights the regular Super Skrull. Yep. And this is his first appearance since Thor 142. And in issue 3, of course, also he continues his fight with the Super Skrull, and he fights Young Brent and the Submariner. Yes, the Submariner in issue 4. Issue 5, he fights the Russians. Yes, the frickin' Russians. And then he fights a monster in issue 6, who just appears for one issue. Issue number 7, he fights Quasimodo. Yes, a character who started off as a Silver Surfer villain. Yeah. Who, prior to this issue, he last appeared in X-Men 48. Yes. And after he fights Quasimodo, he faces up against someone named Akon. Just another one of these alien races that was destroyed in someone called the Organization. Someplace in Florida. And then we have CyberX, a robot. Yeah, and by the way, as for Dr. Walter Larson, who also first appeared in issue 13, he's basically Mar-Vell assumes identity with the issue, and then he is returning into Marvel Team number 4 and a couple issue of Captain Marvel. And then with issue number 9, which is the last issue in this book, he fights Young Ran again, and CyberX is destroyed, and that's it. Really fun book. Love it. I give this book a 10 out of 10. Okay, so that's episode of it. It was a Doctor Who one, and it's on to Eden Zero. Okay, thanks for